Now, a Hutch's weather update with Chief Meteorologist Hutch Johnson, brought to you by Robert Gibb and Sons.
Hello, everybody. Meteorologist Hutch Johnson joining you. Wanted to take an opportunity to pass along a word from my sponsors at Robert Gibb and Sons. They have a deal on the mini split, but not only that, with all of the rain that has happened and more on the way and flooding taking place, not a bad idea to have that sump pump checked by the experts at Robert Gibb and Sons. Get that professional inspection for only $135. And keep in mind that manufacturers often recommend replacement in 3 to 5 years. So call Robert Gibb and Sons today. Your $135 inspection fee will be waived if replacement is necessary, and the special goes through the end of the month. It's $550. All right, let's talk a little bit more about what we have going on across the area today. Just terrible news across portions of the upper Midwest, southern Minnesota. A dam failure threatens property and lives as we head into the evening in and around that Mankato area. And we have similar situations going on down in Sioux Falls. So southern parts of Minnesota and eastern South Dakota have been inundated with rain, and more thunderstorms are in the offing for the night tonight. Right now, we're dealing with heat, and there's not much on the radar in our area. And there's a chance that some of us will be able to sleep easy tonight with a lowered storm chance because of this heat, and I'll explain why in this update. Make sure you drop a line at the notes here. Let me know where you're watching from. And now let's take a look at our current conditions as we head into our afternoon and evening. It is hot. Look at Grand Forks sizzling. It's 90 degrees out there at the Emerado area, 90 degrees also out at the Air Force Air Base. And as we look down to the south, 88 degrees out in Crookston. It is 86 in Thief River Falls at this hour. Up to the north, it's 87 in Badette. War Road, you have 84 degrees. Same thing in Roseau, a little bit cooler there. But look at this heat where you see these orange bubbles there. Catherine in Cloquet, thank you so much for watching. And bad flooding in southwest Minnesota in Windham as well. Mary, thank you very much for your report. Bemidji, you have a more comfortably warm day at 83 degrees, but that humidity is building and that could fuel some storms. Heat down to the south as we look in on that Lake Traverse area. It's 90 degrees there, 88 degrees in the Sisseton Hills, 86 for those of you at the Gwinner area right now. And Valley City and Jamestown ringing in the mid 80s as well, 87 for Jamestown, and Carrington is at 86 degrees. So it's very hot, and take a look at all of these active flood warnings that you see in bright green here. These are flood warnings and flash flood warnings. And folks, there is a major dam failure to the south of the Twin Cities area near Mankato. This area right here is the area of the dam failure going on at this time. It's observed. The video from there is incredible. And what's going on is the building and rising waters have caused the waters to spill over the dam. It's eroding the land around the dam, and a complete failure is possible, and in fact may be actually occurring as we speak. So a terrible situation there. Hi, Dan from Bemidji. Thank you for watching. And in many of these areas in southern Minnesota, from Sleepy Eye and New Ulm to all the way out towards Waseca and Owatonna, Faribault, all under flood warnings at this hour, and more rain is on the way for some, not all areas tonight. And these will be those severe thunderstorms and thunderstorms with locally ridiculous rainfall. Redfield, 91 degrees the temperature there. Now let's take a look at those dew point temperatures. That's what makes it feel like air you can wear out there. And indeed, it is just silly hot out there across the area. So what you're going to see now is a view of temperatures in the red digits and the dew points. When we see dew points like this here in and around that Lake Traverse area, 70s, this is more akin to the air that we see in the Gulf of Mexico. So our southerly wind and the heat is causing the fields of corn and our wet soils to evaporate and transpirate moisture into the atmosphere. And it's causing these levels to bring uncomfortable and, in fact, dangerous levels of heat. We have heat advisories for all of these counties that you see down in South Dakota that are shaded in this peach color here. So heat advisories there, heat advisories into southwest Minnesota, and a risk for severe thunderstorms tonight. Hi, Don. Hello. Good to have you on board. Thanks for dropping a line. Let's take a look at the radar in our area. Now, notice this. We have heat. Look at the dew points up north. much, much drier air. Air with dew points in the 50s, not too conducive to bringing significant severe weather. We can have severe storms with dew points in the 50s, but with a spread or a difference in dew point and temperature like that, those cloud bases will be a lot higher in the atmosphere. And we're also seeing a north wind really dry things off in the Bismarck area. It is hot, but it is indeed a dry heat. Look at Bismarck and Mandan with dew points around those mid 40s out there. That's super dry air. Now, just to the south in parts of Emmons County and down here near Mobridge, South Dakota, down towards Pierre, those dew points are in the 70s still, but it's a drier north flow. So we have a complex setup tonight, and let's get to the basics. Let's take a look at our risk of severe weather tonight, and we'll update you on where these storms are expected to fire. There's not much of a change. It's silly hot out there. It's so hot that the upper levels of the atmosphere, where the air is usually cooler, heating up as well. When that happens, rising bubbles of air run into a hot pocket, and that stops the rising bubble of air from creating a thunderstorm tower. So we'll likely see a probability of some areas being capped by this layer of warm air aloft. That's called a cap, and that means the good news. Not all of us are going to see storms. However, where storms do form with air like this, temperatures near 90, 85, dew points in the 70s, folks, it is going to be very, very humid, and there will be a lot of fuel for these thunderstorms tonight. Now, there will be all modes of severe weather. Some of you have even told me, oh, that Reed Timmer is coming up to town with his Dominator. Well, when Reed Timmer comes to town, it's for a reason. There is a risk of some strong to severe storms tonight. Here's a look at where the Storm Prediction Center has an update for us. There is an increased risk of severe storms in southern Minnesota, and the area is concerning for those with flood watches and warnings going on right at this particular time. Here is a look at our probabilities of severe weather and our risk area. And anywhere you see the yellow color, there is a slight risk or a level 2 out of 5. So that's not the highest risk, but there is a risk of severe storms tonight from the Red River Valley, northwest Minnesota, straight through the Twin Cities. You get into the Twin Cities, you see this peach or orangish color here. I don't know what color I would call that. It's not my favorite color. And particularly in this situation, this is a level 3 on the severe weather scale from the Storm Prediction Center. So from Bloomington and Brooklyn Park, where Hutch just was with the classic car show out there, in and around St. Paul, that is where the risk increases for some tornadoes. And folks, some could be strong. Look at where our flooding concerns are from Bloomington and south towards Rochester. There is a concern for some locally heavy rain. Where do you think the storms would develop if they do? Simon, great question. Tracy and Dawn, thank you for your stars, and thanks to all of you for your support of stars over the months of Hutch's weather. I was going to make an exciting announcement early this week, but because of the severe weather threat, I'm going to delay that just a bit of time, but it won't be long. Some expansion of Hutch's weather is on the way, and it's exciting. And I feel you'll be very excited about it too. But for now, let's talk about our risk of storms and where the storms are most likely to fire. To do that, notice our area is in the area of concern, but many areas that have temperatures that are in the 90s are seeing some temperatures above the ground warm as well. And when that happens, we can get that cap. So let's take a look at the latest forecast models. I am going to turn off the risk area, but not before showing you this. Where is the risk of tornadoes greatest? Now, I did mention that Reed Timmer's on his way up to Dodge, and that's locally here. Here is where the greatest risk is, per the Storm Prediction Center, of seeing tornadoes. And a few tornadoes could be on the side of strong, even in the green area here, if storms form. There is a volatile atmosphere out there, and there is some spin or shear in the lower levels. What does that mean? Think of it this way. We have changing winds as we go up through the atmosphere, and we have a rolling tube of air over the top of our region. Thunderstorms form, and they bend that rolling tube of air toward the ground. And that's how rotating thunderstorms can form. Not every rotating thunderstorm makes a tornado, but the environment is there for tornadoes to form tonight. Keep that in mind. Don, thank you so very much. Keep that in mind tonight. If storms form in your area, they could quickly become severe. So this is the tornado risk area. Notice we do have this green area in Fargo, Grand Forks, Thief River, Bemidji, and Lakes Country, particularly Lakes Country. Show you why I'm more concerned down south than I am way up far to the north. And there is a risk up north as well. I'll go over that. In fact, we have a couple of storms starting to fire up here in Roseau County, and this is where the models this morning showed them taking off. Let's take a look at the other risks quickly, and then we're going to get to your forecast model. Hail and winds tonight will be the main concerns. Tornadoes are a risk. See the red area here? This is where we could have downright nasty straight line gusty winds with these storms. As they form up in our area and blast their way through the Twin Cities, we could have a wind event from these storms. Persistent, consistent, damaging straight line winds. And when we take a look at this red area, it's a significant risk of severe weather, 30% from any point. There's a 30% chance 30 miles from any point on this map, you're going to have wind damaging storms in the area. That means it's going to miss plenty of you. It's going to miss 70% of the area, but about 30% has a very good chance at seeing damaging straight line winds. And in the black area here near St. Cloud, that is a significant risk area as well. So please keep that in mind as we look at the wind threat for tonight's storms. Now, let's close out with a look at the hail. There's monster heat, monster humidity in the area that we don't see every day here. We more typically see this in the deep south in Tornado Alley. Now, if you really look at the definition of Tornado Alley, it's changing, and there are more here in the Northern Plains that are a part of that. But that said, this is the risk for very large hail, and there is a significant risk anywhere you see the hatched black lines. What does that mean? Fargo, Grand Forks, Thief River Falls, Red Lake Falls, Bemidji. All of our area from the Red River Valley and into central Minnesota and northwest Minnesota has a chance at seeing some, I will call it, ginormous or monster hail. Over 2 inches, and dare I say, I said this earlier, over 3 inches in diameter. And the only reason we say that is because of this. That lift and the energy caused by the heated air today, where the temperatures are getting in the 90s, is going to blossom into rising pockets of air that will be not rising modestly. They'll be rocking. They'll be rising extremely high. And we have energy in the upper atmosphere that will be arriving in the coming hours that is going to move over the top of these storms and provide additional lift to these storms. I think we could see some big hail. That said, please pay attention to this. Maybe highlight this for your friends and share this. Not everybody in these areas is going to see storms tonight. Not everybody in these areas is going to even see severe storms tonight. But the few storms that form, keep in mind, a thunderstorm has an average diameter of a pencil, about 10 miles. So if you were to draw a line on a map, that line might be a mile or 2 wide. Average storm diameter, 10 miles. Hail cores, much less than that. Tornadoes even smaller than that, with an average width of a few hundred yards. So the impacts of tonight's weather will likely be very local. And that's why sometimes you might get the feeling that it never happens in my town. Well, we just want you to have your head in an awareness mode. And if storms form, just know that they could get pretty nasty pretty quick. And if you've done that, then I feel like I've helped. And I like feeling like I can help. I'm not here to scare or frighten anyone. Weather can be scary enough. But if you know where it's happening, what the risks are, you can better plan. And I hope that helps you. So now I'm going to turn this nonsense off. It's not nonsense. We're going to turn this off. And we're going to have a look at the model, the very latest forecast models for today's severe weather event. And as we take a look at the severe weather event in our area, what we're also going to take a look at with the regards to the model is where we expect the storms to form and when they might move through your neck of the woods. And also we're going to look at the risk that the models are calculating for energy in the atmosphere. Thank you, Dawn, for your kind words. Simon, it's great to have your support. Thanks, Bonnie. And thank you, Haley. I appreciate you as well. Let's take a look at the latest forecast model. We're going to look at a couple here, not to confuse you, but to show you that no model is consistently exact with the placement of thunderstorms. So when we show a model, whether it was when Hutch was on television or now, I'm telling you, a computer model cannot precisely to your neighborhood tell you what's going to happen and where. It can't happen, okay? But what we can do is tell you where most models are showing the development happening and why, and what model I think may be onto things. We're seeing a couple of storms form in Roseau County. Let's get the latest from this hourly updating model, and we'll take a quick look at it together because that's what we do here on Hutch's Weather. Now, let's go back just a little bit. I want to go back to a model run here that's going to get us out to the overnight hours. We're going to notice a couple of things. Let's see if this model shows the initiation of storms in Roseau County. Oh, looky there. 2300. That's the time in Europe. That's getting towards 11 p.m. in Europe. We subtract 5 hours from that, and that's 6 to 7 o'clock tonight. So the storms are forming now. That's a little early. That's an hour to two early. Just suffice it to say, this model's not doing a bad thing with the location. The timing might be a little off. That's how meteorology. That's how meteorologists take a look and test a model to see if it's off to the races. Storms forming in and around Crookston, Grand Forks, Fisher, and if you're in Gently, I had a question from folks there. I can't tell you whether the storm will move through your area. I can't tell you in the least. These little storms here can be individual cells. But notice the line expanding from Roseau County through Lake of the Woods County and right through the Red River Valley of eastern North Dakota, where we have the risk of severe weather. And this is as we go through the 7 to 8 o'clock hour tonight. These storms, the ones that form here, could very quickly become severe, so please pay attention to that. Matt, I appreciate you. Thank you for your support of stars. As we sneak through in time, I'm keeping an eye on the Mankato area. I'm keeping an eye on the Sioux Falls area. We know the damage that's been done there, and we know those folks need no more rain. Here it is as we're heading towards 10 o'clock tonight. And if you draw a line from Baudette, Bemidji, and south, it looks like the risk is leaving our area as we go to 10 o'clock tonight, heading through the cities. And here's the area where the models said, look out for a big wind event. And that could be the case. This is one model, and this model isn't starting out that bad. But notice how we didn't have thunderstorms absolutely everywhere. I'm going to say this. We could get zilch. We could get skunked altogether. We could get very little in the way of thunderstorms because if there's a cap extending all the way up to the north, it could be very hard for storms to form tonight. Alicia's asking, which model is this? This is the HRRRR, okay? The high resolution rapid refresh model, okay? Now, that's this model, not off to a bad start, and this one was done a couple of hours ago. Now I'm going to look at another model called the North American model. This one also is convection allowing. Let's see where it starts for storms. It's starting storms now near Roseau County. Not a bad start. It also has some activity starting in a line straight down into that Cooperstown area. Not a bad start. Take a closer look. That's Valley City too. So Jamestown, Valley City, Cooperstown, all on this initialization potential starting point. Let's keep that in mind. Pretty good start. This one says those thunderstorms, any one of these individual tiny little storms could fester up and cause any of the severe risks we just spoke about. Hail, huge, spin, and wind. This moves right through northern parts of Beltrami County, the Red Lake County area. Not showing as much for the Grand Forks area on this model. And then look what happens here. This area is Hutch's area of concern. Why? Because it's hottest and the dew points are the highest, meaning there's more moisture there. And there is a lot of spin in the atmosphere here, as I've been showing you for the last 24 hours. This is the area of concern. Also, we could see any of these storms up here produce some spin as well. This time frame is heading to 10 o'clock. Draw that line. They're on their way out of central Minnesota and into the troubled area. This is a terrible outlook. This would be a line of windy storms that are capable of producing tornadoes on the leading edge, also flooding rains, right over the places where we do not need them. Do I know which of these models will take place? No, I just simply don't. Either of these solutions is possible. It really depends on a couple of things going on in the mid and upper levels of the atmosphere. And we can take a look at another model too. With this model showing such a terrible outcome for the southern part of Minnesota, our area basically is under the risk between right now and about 10 o'clock at night. I'll say our area is eastern North Dakota into central Minnesota. You go out into the cities that last into the early overnight, but even for them and down towards Rochester, it's ending as we approach midnight. This is midnight to 1 a.m. So the threat doesn't last all night. I see a lot of chatter about the HRRR. Simon, you're right. There's a lot of chatter and talk amongst everybody about what model is best. And some storms, I can tell you, with 30 years of forecasting experience and using models as one of my tools, one of my tools to help forecast. The other thing is gut instincts. So here's one of the other things we're going to look at. I want to point out what this model is saying about the risk of spin in the atmosphere. To do that, we're going to look at the tornado parameter. This is called the significant tornado parameter from the North American model. Notice, as we go through initialization time, right now there is spin in the atmosphere up north, but it's not redonkulous. It's there though, and it's significant enough to be watching. I'll be watching for spin in these storms that are forming right now. Look at it turn red. This is where we have real spin starting to form in the atmosphere that increases as we go toward the early evening hours. This is basically right along the I-94 corridor as we look from around the St. Cloud area right up into Alexandria and down toward the Twin Cities, Ramsey County. And as we look in through the evolution of this, the threat or the spin in the storm gets even higher. Now I can hold my mouse over an area and it'll give me a number for the tornado risk area. On a scale of about 1 to 10, this is a 5.5. So these values are going up pretty high as we go into the evening hours. The risk, what this says, it doesn't mean tornadoes are going to form everywhere here. It means that if a thunderstorm moves into this area at this time, and this time would be about 6 to 7 p.m., things could get dangerous in a hurry, and there's enough spin in the atmosphere for a tornado, and dare I say, a strong one to form. Now look what happens as we head towards the 6 to 7 o'clock time frame. This tornado parameter goes up to between 7 and 8. Okay, so there is strong spin, strong lift. A lot of ingredients are in place, but sometimes thunderstorms don't form where the spin is. So we're not guaranteeing thunderstorms. We're saying if thunderstorms form, they could quickly become severe. This threat is diminishing as we head toward the 10 to 11 o'clock time frame and out of here with the storms. I hope that helps. Now we're going to look at one more model, and we're going to look at the thunderstorm progression and the timing for you and for you and for you. And we're going to take a look now at another model, and I'm going to look at one, I want to look at the Canadian model. There have been a couple of instances where I've really liked the output of this model. It's showing as we go through the evening hours that the greatest risk of storms this evening, let me see if I'm looking at, this one's just coming in. It's missing a bunch. It's missing a bunch of data right now. So we're going to go to the most recent one that's not missing data. You can see this cool front forming here. It has a couple of smirches through the Lake of the Woods area. It really evolves stuff in Lakes Country. This is Becker County, Otter Tail County, and it says down here there may be a chance of some storms. It's too hot here for storms to form, it says. The storms that are in Lakes Country and Otter Tail County bulge towards Duluth and the I-35 corridor at the Twin Cities and points north. That's where this model has it. So let me summarize. We looked at 3 models, 3 different solutions. None of them are bad solutions. Crystal says, I'm in a camper, and with this model, it's going to hit Mora, Minnesota. Crystal, if storms form tonight, whether you're in Mora, whether you are in, say, the Lakes Country, Cormorant Lakes, if you're in the Bemidji area, if you're in the Red Lakes area, if you're in Lakes area, Simon said it best, literally a crapshoot. It depends on where the thunderstorms form. So we're watching them now. Here's the latest radar, just as we say this, and there's a couple of storms forming in the area that the models were showing. I'm going to get my little weather pencil out here. I'm going to color, let's pick a different color here. Let's go with something that stands out. Let's go with pink. Okay, so this bright pink. See this line of thunderstorms that's apparently starting to form, and it even shows evidence of extending out here. Anywhere along this line is, I think, the starting point. That's where the chances are greatest for things to fire up in the next hour or two. Okay, this line will be moving to the south. Anywhere right here, I mean anywhere right in here. It's so hot and it's so humid, any rising bubble of air that starts forming clouds could quickly explode into a severe thunderstorm. And then that thunderstorm will be in an environment where there's going to be all those hazards and spin. So absolutely, some dangerous storms could happen tonight. And again, I'll repeat this, it could literally be a no-show because of the heat in the atmosphere. Now, if you want one more little piece of tool in this puzzle, our technology, as fast as our computers are, as great as our radars are, and all of that, We launch a weather balloon every day, twice a day, from places like, no, not in Grand Forks. They launch a balloon in Bismarck. They launch a balloon in Aberdeen. They launch a balloon in the Twin Cities. These weather balloon launches allow us to measure the temperature of the air as we go up through the atmosphere. They measure the moisture in the air as we go up through the atmosphere. And literally the points that I just said, Bismarck, Aberdeen, Minneapolis, that's it. Glasgow, Montana launches a weather balloon. We don't get a lot of measurements of where this happens. The next balloon launch doesn't happen until around 7 o'clock tonight. We're not even going to get new data. However, they do special launches, and they're doing those now in this juicy air to try to measure the parameters of the atmosphere. But there's a problem. We only measure the potential energy in the atmosphere at these specific sites that are separated by 150 miles or more. And we're trying to forecast a storm that's going to form in some 10-mile circle in some small town somewhere. It's not a very good system, but it's the best we have. Now we have remote instruments. We can measure these temperatures as airplanes go up and go down, and we can measure the moisture in the air, but it's still not the same as taking a snapshot globally of what the atmosphere looks like. And that is one excuse, one reason why, no matter how fast or great our computer models get, we're putting data in from points that are 150 miles apart and expecting to be able to forecast whether a storm is going to dump 3 inches of rain in your backyard. We can't do that yet with any confidence or significant consistency. So that's where our science is, and that's my explanation for a few things. Hi, Tracy. Good to have you on board. Listening from Erskine Volleyball Tournament. Cindy, good luck to the volleyball team out there. Hope all of the participants are enjoying their day. Let's take a look right here. Thank you, Amy, for the stars. We're going to take a look at a couple of DOT cams, shall we, in the line of fun. We're going to Minnesota first, where we see the storm starting to form. We're going to Roseau County because we'll get a front row seat from my friends at the Department of Transportation, south of Wanaska. Let's start in Badger. Okay, now we're looking right there. That is not a thunderstorm. That is the road surface. Remember, the DOT watches road surfaces. We have the thunderstorm that's thunderstorming, and it's getting wet. So Badger, it's soggy, and there are storms forming in your area. Watching from the Philippines. Wow, it's always hot, says David. I believe so. And we are getting a taste of Philippines type of humidity here today. We're talking 90 plus degrees and dew points in the mid 70s for some. Another view from the Badger area showing the storms in the distance there. Some bluer skies in the off distance out there. And that is a look from Badger in Roseau County. Now let's look at it from the other side near Salo. That lens might need a little bit of cleaning, but other than that, it looks like, oh, now we can see the storm off in the distance. Some clouds low here hanging by the trees. Okay. Those thunderstorms, what Hutch is looking at, how high off the ground are they? Are they forming really close to the ground? Do they have a base that's pretty high off the ground? And it looks like to Hutch, those bases are fairly high. That doesn't mean they're not strong, but it means a little bit less threatening, maybe more windy and wind threat from those. Here's a few storms. This view from Roosevelt, also in Roseau County. This is where storms are firing. I have a couple for you in Marshall County, Minnesota. So let's go down towards Thief River Falls. Let's go down towards Alvarado, shall we, and see what we can see there. And I see the road surface, and I see cloudy gray skies, and I don't see any storms forming from those shots that are going to help Hutch out with diagnosing whether these storms are looking particularly nasty. Here's from the Thief River Falls area as we look at the sky above. Again, I'm looking at all these cloud bases because it tells me if I have a rising bubble of air, how high it has to rise before it starts making a cloud. The dew points up there are getting higher, and the moisture is getting richer, and the storm clouds will likely be a little lower. So if we can get clouds to form, and the rising motion forming clouds like this from the ground up, and they start forming closer to the ground, we could have a problem, and we could have some strong to severe storms. So that's a look at your forecast. I'm looking over questions. Jenna, thank you very much for watching from Barnesville. It's great that the world of meteorology has grown and developed so much. Don, indeed. And I'm glad that your teacher heart is happy. I like to share a little bit of insight because a lot of people give me grief sometimes. I'm not complaining about it, or I would find another line of work. I love the fact that we can talk shop about weather. The bottom line to keep in mind is that, though, our science only has certain limits. And sometimes we don't speak in the terms of science in a 3.5 minute weathercast on a broadcast channel. Hutch gets more time than that to answer questions and to explain why. I get a ribbing sometimes because you said it wasn't going to rain. Well, in the 3.5 minutes I had, maybe I missed that part. And that's the part where I try to make it as clear as I can that we have a risk of severe storms tonight. Not all of us will see storms. Many of us will not. And it's a matter of if they form. If they form, there could be a number of them that become severe with all modes of severe weather possible: hail, damaging wind, and tornadoes, and flooding. Flooding is my main concern. So I'm hoping that North American model doesn't win out. If I had to pull my put my allegiances on something, we're going to look at one more thing. We're going to look at that satellite loop. Okay, where are the clouds forming? See the sunshine aplenty forming? Do you see this line right here, this line? Then you can see this cool front behind it. Out ahead of the cold front, we have a line starting to form here. That line is forming here in the northern part. It's forming up here because the air above the ground is cooler and it's allowing the rising motion. It's too hot down here in the upper levels of the atmosphere for these storms to take off. But if any one of these storms can punch through that cap or that heated layer of air aloft above the ground, then it's game on. So, and there is plenty of spin in the atmosphere as well. Sometimes we can visualize that spin. Check out this. You see wind down near the ground blowing from north to south, and then these clouds are moving this way. So can you imagine in your mind's eye, the wind at the south is blowing into my face and the wind above is blowing the other way? That's that rolling we were just talking about. There is low-level spin in the atmosphere here, and it's kind of rolling like a horizontal tube over the ground. Any storms forming in this area tonight will have that twist in the air, and we'll be watching it close here on Hutch's Weather. Couple storms forming in and around Roseau County. They are non-severe right now. Could they become severe? Yes. The main event is likely to begin any time now, and as it does, we'll be watching for the clouds from satellites and from space, and we'll be watching in this area in particular for anything. This cloud that's over this entire area, this muddled area of clouds, could limit some of the thunderstorm potential by lowering some of the temperatures that are going on there. But when this upper air system works its way over us as we go through the evening hours tonight, it could cause a little bit of a disturbance, a little bit of extra lift, or a little bit of cooling in the upper layers of the atmosphere with falling pressures, where we could get a couple storms taking off. So not all of us will see storms. Some will, and they could be severe. Stay informed tonight. Make sure you have a plan and know where you could go, and I'll keep you up to date to the very best of my ability. Until next time, I'm meteorologist Hutch Johnson. You're watching Hutch's Weather. I'll have updates here throughout the evening as needed for severe